All right, the first instalment of this year's State of Origin series is a little over a week away. The New South Wales Blues named their team yesterday, and what a talented side it is. Let's have a look at this. James Tedesco is captain and fullback. Brian Totlo will make his debut on the wing, the little pocket rocket. A couple of fullbacks in the centre, Latrell Mitchell and Tom Trbojevic, the Fox on the other wing. And there they are, the halves combination for the Penrith Panthers, Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary. Pretty strong forward pack, some players missing, an interesting back row, and when you look at that interchange bench, boy oh boy, isn't it strong. So what was the first thing that jumped out at you when you saw that team?
For me, it was the bench, just how strong it is, and the fact that once they start to get through the rotation, the Blues are really going to be able to maintain the momentum. I think the New South Wales bench is far stronger than Queensland's. I think that's where the advantage is.
Particularly if the Maroons lose Felice Kafusi tomorrow night, he's going to go down and fight that tripping charge at the NRL judiciary. If he's out, then Jaden Sewer goes into the side and most likely Cohen Hess on the bench. So that's a good side, Ben. I particularly like the inclusion of Jake Trbojevic. I think he's been in terrific touch. The only players who would have been there that aren't there are suspended, Angus Crichton and Victor Radley, but aside from that, everyone's in form.
The best thing about this football team is 5 Penrith players. 4 of them starting. I love Luai and Cleary together in the halves. What have they won? 27 straight. Outside of the grand final, I think in a game of this magnitude, and we've fallen over before, you need combinations. Boys who have been together for a couple of years. And I've got no doubt Luai's up to it.
There's a real chance in New South Wales, which for years have been struggling to sort of settle on a halves combination, they might have finally found it. Like you go back to whenever New South Wales has been strong, they've always been really settled there at the 6 and 7. But for the last miserable decade or more, when Queensland have just dominated, it was just constantly changing, trying to find something to work, and never quite got there. These two guys are playing so well together. They're so young still, that this could be an Origin combination for many, many years.
I think this is a genuine wait and see for me. This is
serious?
Yep. I just don't know if the style that Cleary and Luai bring to club football, they'll be allowed to play in State of Origin. It's a different style of game. It's a long, hard grind with limited space. And look, Cleary is in the form of his career. There's no doubting that he's the best playmaker in the competition, but I just wonder, Jerome Luai, whether or not his style will work in the Origin arena.
They do mix together so well, though, Ben.
Combination counts. Combination counts. I won't argue with that. But you know, Jack Whiten is a big, strong body, and with Cleary in the form he's in, I would have been very tempted, even though Jack and his Raiders haven't been going great, I would have been very tempted to bet that Jack Whiten plays better football for New South Wales than he does for Canberra with Nathan Cleary inside him.
Yeah, it's not really like a debutant that he was part of that COVID bubble last year with the New South Wales Blues all that long. So he's been around camp. You know, he knows FREDDY well. He knows the other players well. And you look at this Penrith side, and I wrote it this morning. This is the most dominant team, and I know they lost the grand final we have seen for years and years and years. And I think Benny had to be there. And I've got no doubts whatsoever he'll handle it.
I think Ben's point's right, though. The space that he's been allowed to have in club football disappears in Origin. And how he handles that's going to be the trick.
That'll be the test, is because Cody Walker has sort of tried this level and not had the success he has done with the Rabbitohs, because, again, it's everything he brings for the Rabbitohs on his best day isn't always kind of there to be taken when you're in the Origin arena. The other guy I want to sort of quickly touch on is Latrell Mitchell. Do you think he'll be better or worse off having played the last phase of his career since he played for New South Wales at fullback and now has to shift to the centres?
I think it'd be better. His hands at the moment, the silky skill and that sleight of hand that he's really developed in his game since he's played more fullback. I mean, you go back to the 2018 series and Latrell Mitchell was one of New South Wales' best players. He dominated Will Chambers, who at that stage was widely regarded as an Origin and representative specialist. I'm expecting a massive series from Latrell. I think he's got some unfinished business in this arena, and I think he'll perform really strongly.
He's matured a bit too since then. I think that's important.
Kenny,
as a man, he's
when he was dropped, he was a bit lazy, and he wasn't, on plays like he should be.
Well, his efforts off the ball weren't what they should have been.
I think the fact that he's got a lot more kilometres and mileage in him from playing fullback has made him busier, and I think he'll be fitter. And I think he'll go well.
The other two questions I've got, the back row, when you look at it, how does Brad FITTLER use Cameron Murray and Isaiah Yeo? I know that tip is at the moment that Murray will play on an edge, but Isaiah Yeo, as good as he's been through the middle, so has Cameron Murray for South Sydney. And Isaiah Yeo, as a former centre, I think is very capable of playing on an edge. Is there any inside word about what will happen there?
No question Isaiah Yeo could play on an edge if required, but I think the brilliance of Cameron Murray is that he's one of those versatile jack of all trades who he can play edge back row, he can play in the centres at a pinch. It was a devastating blow for New South Wales in last year's series when Cameron Murray suffered that injury, because it meant that their Mr. Fix-It was ruled out at the time. So I'm expecting that he will start, Ben, on the left edge. I would also suggest that he'll spend some time in the middle as well. But most certainly to begin the game, I haven't heard any whispers about he and Yeo switching.
And then second to that, Jack Whiten coming off the bench. Any idea how Freddie will use him? We're going to talk to the coach soon.
What he's going to do? We'll ask him.
Well, he can play 5'8" centre fullback. So, handy bloke to have there.
So, the other thing I guess we need to make room for is this chat about how we think the game itself will be played. Clearly with new rules and a crackdown in club football, the intensity of Origin, even though we've spoken about it being different and shaping the game in different ways, could potentially more resemble club football than it ever has.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I think the game has taken a marked shift from what it used to be already. This is just a slight variation on that. The rules have always been in Origin. You can't head-eye tackle.
Caddy, that's wrong. You're wrong.
Oh, okay.
It could potentially ruin the series. If games are refereed like the one in Newcastle yesterday, the series will be unwatchable. It was inconsistent. There were some blokes put on report.
Do you think the referee from yesterday's game will be refereeing Origin, though?
No, I don't, Kenty, but I'm saying potentially it could ruin the series.
Yeah, but I don't think it will, Buzz. I don't think it will be ruined. And I think these players are smart enough to understand the necessity to remain on the field. I think if you look at a bloke like Jake Trbojevic, everyone takes a leaf out of his book and starts tackling like where they bend the back and drive with the shoulders a little bit. You're still going to see the big bash-ups that you get in the game.
How many Origin series have we seen where referees become one of the biggest talking points of the week? Will they put the whistle away? How's going to handle it? Both coaches start to put the blowtorch on. Well, it's up to... we're looking for some quality officiating. It won't be any different, Buzz, to what it's been.
Okay.
What? They're going to go out and go Burko in Origin, are they? And ruin the spectacle.
What, the players or the referees?
No, the referees.
Well, the only thing I can go on is 3 years ago when Todd Greenberg did the big crackdown, he dropped off after 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, but Buzz,
so we had rules in a premiership, and then we got to... Can I finish? Then he got to Origin and he dropped off the penalties.
There is a tendency come Origin for the referees to put their whistle in their pocket. That's not unusual.
So you're happy with that? So we're going to change the rules for Origin now?
Well, we've been happy with it for the last 41 years. Why are we going away from it now?
You two have been very heavily campaigning to get rid of the high shots. I actually agree with you, but I disagree with how they've gone about it. And I think they're going to make a mockery of it if they let it go, they crack down on clubs and then
Buzz, you're
let it go in Origin.
You're talking ifs and buts and chips and nuts. The game hasn't been on yet. You're talking hypotheticals.
But I'm worried about it, James. And I think a lot of other people are worried about it too.
I'm worried about it, but I've got faith in the system.
And that was the question, is about how do you think it will affect Origin? And if concussion has been elevated to the pedestal that we've seen over the last 2 weeks, and you can't step away from how the game's been policed at club level just because this is Origin and it's played differently. That would make a mockery of why the NRL put the crackdown in the first place.
This is the game that's on the national stage. This is a game watched in every state and overseas, right? So if they want to show the world they're serious about concussion, they're serious about head-eyes, they've got to do it in this game.
That's right. You can't say concussion counts except for in Origin.
Well, if they hit blokes in the head, then they'll be pinged for
So
it. But
you'll be happy with 11 players versus 13?
I don't think, Phil, we're talking hypotheticals.
I'm worried about
I think,
it,
Ben,
James.
to answer your question, I do think that with not just the concussion crackdown, but also the overhaul and all the rule changes that we have seen in the last 18 months, I think we will see a bit of a shift in the style of game. It's going to be really fast. I think that
shifted.
no, I know it's fast
Origin's
already,
not,
right?
Origin's
but it's not what it
anything
was.
like it used to be
the
played.
days of the enforcer, the Trevor Gilmeister, the Nate Miles, the Paul Gallen, those style of players really standing up and dominating and putting
They haven't
on
been around
big
for
shots
10
or
years,
whatever
those
it
guys,
is.
those games.
No, I know, but I just think this year more than any other, it is going to be a different style of a match.